Good morning, Rick.
Hey, good morning, Keith. How you doing today?
Doing great. Always great to see you. Just so grateful to have you in my life. You are consistently a blessing,
Well,
consistently. And
it,
I just want to say thank you.
yeah, sorry to interrupt. I just get a little queasy when you say stuff like that.
It's
But
the
thank
truth,
you.
man. It's the truth. So the topic of this podcast is, or the title is Become a Servant, Not a Critic.
Okay.
And this comes, I was just thinking about this from a recent event that I had experience, and I'm so grateful that I have my practice. And the premise is, before I tell you about the event, is that if you happen to have mastery in an area, or you a leader, or in whatever the area is, it could be sports, it could be recreational sports, professional sports, it could be in your home with your family, in the workplace, whatever you seem to have mastery over. It's often times that people who are really great at something, they don't create space to lift other people up. They find a way to criticize and blame them for the slightest thing. And, I think it's important to use that brilliance, that mastery to help people, to nurture them, to give them to help them develop their own skills and tools. And I'm getting a lot of practice at doing that. I have like taken a little bit I know on the pickleball court to spend time with my friends to help them, enjoy the game and get better at it. And there are people who have done the same thing with me. I'm often like giving credit for other things that I've done over the years in terms of exercise and working out. And ToBeRe has been a great place for me to let go of being critical of what people could or couldn't do, or whether or not they kept or broke their commitments, to really asking myself, am I lifting people up? Am I using this small little area that I have shown a bit of mastery in to help others? And most recently, what happened is, and I'm aware that at all times, my primary task is to be aware of what's going on with me, like who I'm being as I'm going about doing whatever it is. That's primary. Whatever the task is at hand, that's secondary. And so I try to remind myself of that. I'm getting better at it, but it still needs some work. So most recently, we had an event to celebrate the life and legacy of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And obviously, this is a man that many of us know that represents peace and really the best of humanity. His approach was not one that didn't engage in conflict. It did, but it did so in a constructive, peaceful way, a very thoughtful way, in a way that lifted everyone up. So I had an event that happened right before this, in which I was invited. I don't remember seeing the invitation, but I'm sure it came to a celebration event that celebrated the contributions and the events that a small group of employees that I'm a part of. I'm actually the chair of this particular group called the African Descendants Merge. And so we put on events throughout the year that really kind of are service oriented, regarding a lot of topics that affect different communities, and specifically the African American community. We did one on mental health. We did a partnership and a collaboration with another group on cancer awareness. And we've just done a host of events like that, dress for success for people that are going out into the work, going out into the corporate environment, to be dressed in a way that that makes them, feel good and presentable, and dressed appropriately for the job that they are interviewing for. So we've done a lot of good things. And one of the things that we've also done is to, do the MLK celebration event every year. Well, at the end of the year, and I didn't know this because this is my first year being chair, they have a celebration event. The celebration event occurred well, a couple of weeks ago. And on my way out of a morning event, I ran into one of the people that's putting together this celebration event. And he said to me, Keith, are you coming to the event tonight? And I'd already had another appointment. It wasn't on my calendar. So I said no. Now, leading up to this, they put different calendar invites on our schedule. that to me looked optional to go. But had you gone to the event, you would have known, as you go into these planning sessions, you would have gotten more information about the event. But I didn't go. And so I told him that day that I was not going to go to the celebration event that night. And when I got home and finished my other commitment, I started getting text messages from leaders, senior
Mhm.
leaders at Mayo Clinic
Mhm.
saying, "Where are you?
Oh
You know,
gosh.
we we just they just made an announcement for the three people that are the leadership in your particular group, and to acknowledge you and have you stand up." And the whole audience looked over at the table that was set aside, reserved for you guys, and no one was there. It was crickets. So,
Oh boy.
so I just wrote back and said, "Hey, listen, I was unaware that, it was mandatory that I was there. I had another commitment. I apologize." So that was one leader. Then I got another text message from another senior leader that said, "Where were you?" So now the next day, I'm doing my practice, but I'm also feeling like, did I drop the ball? Was there a letdown here? And which is what I do. I'm looking for someone else to blame first and foremost. That's 1.0. And then if I can't find that culprit, then okay, there's only one person left, me. So I was on to option number two. Fast forward, we have the MLK event coming up, and on the flyer for the MLK event, and this event was planned several months prior, and we kind of delegate different tasks. My tasks are to work and come up with panel questions that we're going to use, and to just work with my co-chairs to develop the program. But I wasn't involved with the flyer part of it or how the actual event, the logistics of the event. But on the flyer, it said that it would also be broadcast virtually and that we would be serving food. So about the day before or the day of, from the CEO of Mayo Clinic in Arizona, from his office comes an email. And the email says, "Will this be broadcast over Zoom?" And so I wrote back to the team and a text, "Hey, they want to know if this is going to be over Zoom. The flyer says it is." And no one set up Zoom. And this is the kind of thing that needs to be set up 2 weeks ahead. And
Oh
this is
boy.
the day of.
Oh yeah.
So now, then they said, the CEO wrote back and said their office will pay for the food that we ordered because food is listed that will be served for the event. So I wrote back to my team, "Guys, they want to know about food. They're going to pay for it." They wrote back and said, "We didn't order food." So
Man,
Rick,
this is like the
so,
trifecta of
so
badness,
Rick, my ego is taking off his jacket, is popping his knuckles, is stretching, and
Oh
so
yeah, a lot of blame, man. A
oh my
lot of
God.
blame.
So, Rick, I'm fired up. So I'm on my way driving in because we had this person who is an employee, and many of us are managers on this team, but we have employees who I think she's a team lead. And so that's a couple like spots, under that she's under. So she would report up to us if we worked in her division. So she, I think, was tasked with a lot of these logistical things like food and virtual links and things like that. So I'm coming in. I'm like, and my conscious self is like, we're not blaming anyone. This is what it is. So my way in, I'm listening to the Michael Singer. I'm doing my practice, and I'm reminded that my job is to lift people up. Now, here I am. The irony of it is I'm coming in on MLK's day, which is all
Yeah,
about peace.
yeah,
And
yeah.
so I walked in and I was so clear that I wasn't going to say anything. I wasn't going to pass blame, and I was going to be loving and kind because it's my job to lift up. And so I told this story to our good friend Brian Hardaway yesterday because he was like, just giving, just really complimentary feedback about how well the event went, and it was better than it had been done, in previous years, and just all these things. And then I tell him about, well, let me tell you, I had my practice on the way driving in, and a few days before the event. And he says to me, he's like, "I couldn't tell that there was anything going on. You were
Wow.
so present, you were so loving, you were so kind. You honored, Dr. King and the legacy in such a, just beautiful way." And I was like, man, the practice works. So the title of this podcast again is to, you know, is to become a servant, not a critic. And in that moment, what I was hanging on by a thread, let me tell you, hanging on by a thread, but I was still hanging on, which was I'm here to serve, I'm here to raise the moment, I'm here to lift other people up and not be a critic. And so I let all that go. And we'll have a debrief about what we can do differently, what we did well and what we can do differently moving forward. But, you know, I am hopeful that that experience will, you know, be, you know, part of my new normal moving forward when things happen that I want to blame. And part of that was if this event, the MLK thing would have been isolated, I don't think it would have, you know, required this level of consciousness from me. But because I was feeling, you know, guilt and blame from the celebration event, here I am projecting, you know, this MLK thing and amplifying it to place blame on other people. And I was able to, thanks to the practice, resist the urge of that. And again, to become a servant and not a critic.
Yeah. Wow, what a story. Well, congratulations, first of all, for enduring. I think that's probably the kind of maximum pressure, peer pressure, pressure from superiors, and then our own sense of letting others down and ourselves down. That's an example of an enormous problem. It's sort of a confluence of all of the things that we fear the most happening, like in a space of a few minutes, and then complicate it further by your special relationship to that event and how important it was for you to be a leader and to have things put out into the community that you've experienced that would be part of the richness for the MLK experience for the audience. So I can understand how that was an enormous hit for you, but congratulations in keeping
Thank
with
you,
the
Rick.
practice. You know, I'll tell you that even when I don't feel like I can go through something like that, I can remember Thich Nhat Hanh, who is a hero of mine. It's
He just passed away. Yeah.
just passed away, a Buddhist monk, Vietnamese monk who lived in France and had a monastery. Would say that, you know, even if your consciousness level is not to where you want it to be, you know, you're starting to practice, let's say, but you don't really have a handle on it. Things still upset you. It's very difficult to get into some of the things that we talk about. His his shorthand way of dealing with that was to say something like, well, fake it till you make it. He didn't say those words. What he said was smile, breathe, and go slowly. And I think when we can tune into those three things, smile, breathing, going slowly, the consciousness comes easier.
Yes. Yes.
It's very helpful. There's a way you could fly off the handle, be aggressive, be angry, be frustrated, but it serves no purpose. When you smile, breathe, and go slowly, you can open up that door in your heart. You can make room for allowing something bad to have happened and then to learn from it and to make sure that it doesn't happen again. And it's not always going to work. Some people are going to be miffed and you can't control that. Some people are going to feel let down. Some people are going to feel that you're an imposter when you tout all of the things that we talk about and then you fail to make an appearance at an important show. But those are things you can't control and they have to let them go. So I guess what I'm saying is that, first of all, congratulations on getting through that very difficult thing. But remember that the ego always wants to make you right and others wrong. And the way to start getting away from that is, number one, being aware of it. And number two, when the crap hits the fan and your consciousness isn't where it should be, if you can smile and breathe and go slowly, that's half the battle.
I'm taking notes. I'm taking notes right now as you say that. I mean,
Well, it
wow.
just one last thing that I think is very helpful to keep in mind, because we've talked about this many times in the show, and I truly believe it. It's the reason I'm practicing law at 74. Our purpose in life is to help other people. I'm
Mhm.
sorry, there's just no other way to put it. Our purpose in life is to help other people. Okay, whether it's your kids or your parents or your friends or people that you serve professionally as a lawyer or a teacher or a doc or whatever. Our purpose in life, our prime purpose, we have several, but our prime purpose is to serve other people. And you know, if you can't help them, If you can't help them, well, at least don't hurt them.
Right.
If you can't help other people, at least don't hurt them. And the exercise that our ego often puts us through is to do exactly the opposite. When we're caught being less than what we want to be for ourselves, we start looking to make other people wrong and to hurt them. And that is just contrary to what the universe rewards and is about, which is love and cooperation and working together for a common goal and all of the rest. That creates an enormous obstacle, not only for yourself and your own enlightenment, but for everyone else who has to work with you and be subjected to your egos acting out. So if you can't, if you can't help people, at least don't hurt them. And when the bad things happen and your consciousness really isn't quite where you want it to be, smile, breathe, go slowly, and it'll turn around.
Wow. Love it, Rick. Let's end there. That was beautiful. I
Well,
mean, that complimented the title beautifully, which
thanks.
is, become a servant, not a critic. Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Thank
that's
you, Rick.
right. That's right. That's not a critic. Boy, that's so important. You know, we all have, I know we're ending the show now, but I want to remind everybody it's totally natural to be a critic, totally natural to judge. You just have to be aware of it. And remember that most of the toxicity in your life comes from being a critic and being a judge.
Absolutely. I love you, Rick. Thank you.
Hey, I love you, Keith. Thanks for including me.
Absolutely.